Alright, you're currently watching video E4-p2.8, which is the tin can lab. Alright, learning targets for this to explain the difference between fog and dew formation and cloud formation. In this case, we're going to be talking about condensation forming, which would be dew, more or less. Okay, so what I'm going to start you off with is, as at the beginning of this video, you saw the list of materials that hopefully you've gathered. If you haven't, I'm going to ask that you hit the pause button and go gather the materials that you see right here on the materials list. The Celsius thermometer, the tin can, glass beaker, plastic spoon, some room temp water, ice, and paper towel. So if you need to at this point, go ahead and hit pause, and when you're ready, come back, and then we'll start to talk about what you're going to do with all those materials. Alright, so the very first thing I'd like you to spend some time with before you even start in with the actual lab is reading through the procedures. The procedures that are listed here, you'll see step by step, and there are a number of very important key elements to the lab that you need to pay very close attention to because you're going to be in the process of forming condensation, causing the actual air to reach its dew point, the air specifically wrapping around the actual tin can. So it's very important that you spend a few moments of your time before you even begin the lab understanding what it is you're going to do in the lab. So if you haven't already, I'm going to ask that you spend the next minute or two and read through the procedures that are listed here. You'll see procedure step 1 through 8, and then on the following page on the back side you will see steps 9 through 12. And again, very important for you to read just to have a better understanding of the actual steps that you're going to be taking in order to complete this lab. Alright, so if you need to, go ahead and hit pause, read through them, and then come back when you're ready, and then we'll start talking about the lab itself. Now that you've spent some time actually reading through the procedures, I'm going to point out a few minor things in the procedures that are very important portions, simply because if you were to skip them or not understand what it was you're doing, you're going to get some information, or you're going to actually get some data as you're recording this that will not be true. It's actually going to be a little bit inaccurate to show the temperature of the air or the moisture surrounding the can when the condensation was actually starting to form, and the temperature at which it started to form at. Alright, so what I'm going to point out to you is this. What you're going to do is, when you have your room water in your beaker, when you pour that in, as it says for step number 3 is what I'm going to focus on, the room temp water, you're going to fill the tin can that you have about halfway up. Okay, and if you're a little bit off of half, it's fine. It's just a matter of halfway, just because when you start to add the ice into it, you're going to get volume displacement, which is going to cause the water inside the can to actually rise because of the volume of the moisture that's actually in the ice cubes. And I just don't want to have it where you spill over and create a big mess. So it's just more or less just halfway, just because of that particular point. All right, now what's going to happen is, if condensation forms when you start to add the moisture, when you start to add the actual room temp water and you get condensation, you'll start to see kind of a foggy kind of mist that will start to actually form on the outside of the can. If that actually happens, what you need to do is you need to then pour the water out into the sink and then dry the can with the paper towel that you have. Alright, and the reason for that is the actual can itself has not returned back to room temp, and that's the reason why condensation has formed. So if you need to, make sure that you do that first. Okay. What I'm going to point out to you down here in step number 4 is you're going to start by adding anywhere between 2 to 5 pieces of ice. I don't care how many you add each time. It doesn't matter to me as far as what you start off with. However, you need to be consistent. So if you start by adding 2, then once those 2 melt inside your can, you'll add another 2 and then another 2 until the point, as it says right here in bold, you'll continue to add those pieces of ice until you get condensation that forms on the can. Once the condensation forms, step number 5 right down here, you have to remove the ice. Remove the ice before you then take the thermometer, put it inside the tin can to actually measure the temperature of the water. Because if the ice is in there, that's going to actually cause the temperature of the water to continue to cool, and that's not exactly what's happening. You want the temperature at which the condensation started to form, and that's why you remove the ice and then take the temperature using the thermometer, as you see here in step number 6. Once you've done that, you'll record the data in your data table. You'll see right here the data table. You'll have trial 1, trial 2, and then trial 3. So again, you're going to be doing this 3 times. In each of those times, you record the air temperature in this space, and then the dew point, when condensation actually formed. You'll calculate that, or actually just record that here. And then what you'll do when you're using the data table, you'll actually calculate the average dew point. So you'll add trial 1 plus trial 2 plus trial 3, all of those temperatures, and then divide by 3 because we ran 3 trials. Alright? So those are basically the key points I want to point out to you, just to make sure that, you know, while you're doing this actual lab, that you don't run into some issues in which condensation forms prior to the dew point actually being reached with the water and the ice being added. Once you've completed the data table and the trials, you'll then return the materials, and once you've returned the materials, then you have a series of questions you'll see on the very last page. And these questions, again, are going to be ones that are going to challenge you. Some are going to be questions about the lab itself, some are going to be questions about your notes, and then other questions are going to actually be connecting the two, kind of a realistic, critical thinking type question, kind of connecting things that happen in the real world and kind of asking you to explain exactly why those things actually take place and why they actually occur. So it's, you know, there's going to be some things that you may get hung up on, and if that happens, you know, do not hesitate to ask myself or Mr. Fusak should you have questions and don't quite understand what one of these 9 questions might be asking of you when you perform and write your response. Alright, so if you do have any questions, do not hesitate. Come seek us out and we'll help you out.